Holy smokes! Holy smokes! I don't want to say the win, the loss doesn't matter, because of course it matters if you want the Eagles to go to the playoffs. But what we saw, the display from Jalen Hurts, the heart from this team, the play calling from Doug Peterson. Hold on there. Okay, I might have gone one step too far. Jalen Hurts, 24-44, 338 yards, only 3 touchdowns, that's all, and a pass, no picks, and a passer rating of 102.3 as we welcome you to Eagles Postgame Live, presented by Cure Auto Insurance. No, they lost 33-26. And the reason I seem a little bit exuberant, a little bit ebullient, if you will, is because it says right here they have their quarterback of the future. I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel. I call it the way I see it. We'll hear from Barrett Brooks, Ray Didinger, Seth Joyner. This guy's a leader. This guy's a winner. This guy has the team on his back, and this guy is phenomenal, Jalen Hurts. Barrett Brooks, you're sitting there with the face, man. You're giving me the face. Come on. Carson Wentz just left town, I think.
No. This kid went out there and performed, man. He was dropping dimes. He put his team on his back and tried to lead them to victory. He was a catch away from having a victory. I mean, I'm excited. I mean, even though they did lose, I see some sense of, all right, they have an opportunity. They have a shot to keep competing in this division. You know, he came back the next game and showed me that this guy's a player. And what this team can do, if they'd have had him earlier, I mean, the skies would have been the limit right now. We'd have been talking about us division leaders if Jalen Hurts would have been there earlier.
Yeah, I guess the question is why they take him 53rd, right? Why did they take him instead of Rager, right there? Okay, I'm kidding.
We don't go that far now.
Ray, give me a reality check, because I know there's a lot of fans watching right now. I see Seth Joyner smiling. He's got a little hint of a smile because he knows where this thing's going to. And this guy is an unbelievable winning-minded quarterback who gets the team to go with them. Ray, your thoughts?
I would say calm down.
Okay.
just a little bit, okay?
All right. Calm down just a little bit.
But this was it was a really impressive performance by the young quarterback, obviously, but I think the whole team, the way they responded. I mean, this would have been. I mean, at the start of the game, it looks like they're going to get run out of the building. I mean, at the start of the game, they're down 16-0 before you can blink, and it looks like they're going to get routed. And you know, they're down 16-0, then they're down 19-7, they're down 24-16, they're down 26-14. There were 3 different points in this game where it looked like they were on the verge of getting routed, and every time they fought back. And it was a really gutty performance by this team. I mean, the defense, which was torn to shreds. I mean, that secondary. And you knew going in it was going to be a terrible thing. But, I mean, they battled. They fought like crazy. And they kind of did what they had to do in this game. They weren't going to get a whole lot of stops. They weren't going to force the Cardinals to punt very much. But what they were going to have to do is they were going to have to try and be opportunistic and force mistakes. And they did that. They got 3 takeaways in this game, which I think might be the most they've had in any game all year, maybe the San Francisco game. But they have not been a big takeaway defense all year, but they were today when they needed to be. And 2 of them in the red zone when the Cardinals were going in. If the Cardinals had scored on those possessions, it could have become a rout. But the defense made a play that got them the ball back, and then they just fought, and they really did. And, you know, Alshon Jeffrey, I'm sorry, who was that you said? Alshon Jeffrey, who all of us buried weeks ago, came to life in this game and really played well. And you know, Hurts is, I think the thing that you're pointing to, which I think a lot of the fans are feeling and the people who watch this game are feeling, is how this kid has really inspired this team.
Wow.
And how these guys have rallied around him and how they play behind him, and the poise that he demonstrates in this game. I mean, one of the problems that they had in this game was they were not very good on 3rd down throughout the game. At one point, they were 3 for 12, then they're 4 for 13. But in that drive with 7 minutes to go, when they're down by a touchdown, he converts a 3rd and 7, he converts a 3rd and 12, he converts a 3rd and 2, and they take him in for the touchdown. That's at the point where they really needed it to happen. He made it happen for them, and I was very impressed. I really was. I think it's it's a bitter loss because it probably does end all the talk about making the playoffs. Not totally, but probably realistically. But this was a they were up against a lot today. There was a lot of adversity piled up on them, and I thought that they, as a group, they responded really well. and there's no question that Jalen Hurts was the guy out front.
Yeah, and I knew Ray was excited while we were watching the game. He dropped his pen. When he dropped his pen, you know he's over the moon. Let's go to Seth Joyner out in Arizona. Seth, you could probably hear the rumble, the rumbling, bumbling, stumbling from where you are all the way to Glendale, Arizona. And you know, you had said weeks and weeks ago that there was a quarterback issue with this team. There may still be, who knows? The playoffs may be a memory for this team this season. Who knows? They're not technically eliminated yet. But what we saw from number 2, is he now the number 1 going into the end of the season and next season even?
I think this is an opportunity for us to learn more and more about Jalen Hurts. I still think that, you know, Carson Wentz will go into training camp next year as the number 1 quarterback. And there will probably, you know, for all intents and purposes, be a quarterback competition next year. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Seth, how can they? I'm sorry to interrupt. I always let you go, buddy. But how could they turn it back over to Carson Wentz? They were a dormant, flat offense. They were doing nothing. They just laid there. They did not get points. You felt when they were behind, they were done. And you don't feel that, nor do you see that now. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, and listen, I think they went to Jalen Hurts because they needed a spark. Okay, they got the spark. That doesn't necessarily mean, you know, by any stretch of the imagination that the organization who just, you know, made Carson Wentz the franchise quarterback, that they're just going to say, okay, we're done after watching this kid play for 2 games. I think the right thing to do is that, listen, you've got Jalen Hurts under a rookie contract in his rookie year. You got Carson Wentz going into, you know, the 2nd or 3rd year of his extension. Whether Carson wants to be here or not, that's a moot issue because he's under contract. You bring him in, you let him compete. I think competition is healthy. I've been saying that for weeks and weeks and weeks. So, in my opinion, that's what you do. I'm disappointed, you know, for this football team as you watch this game today because, you know, I tweeted during the game, you know, we've had our best cornerback line up on DK Metcalf and Devontae Adams, and we put them one-on-one with him the entire game, and we did absolutely nothing to give them help. Now, you put a young guy out on DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins had 11 targets, okay? The closest other guy had 5 on the entire team, and you have no answer for him in the 4th quarter. You had no contingency plan to say, okay, we're going to double him and make everybody else beat us, okay? Because essentially the same thing happened all over again. One wide receiver on the opposing team basically took you down, and you had no adjustment to take him away. I mean, I watched the Arizona Cardinals play. I've seen other teams double him in crunch time and take him away and say, okay, beat us with someone else. But Jim Schwartz just insists on putting these guys out on the island in a predictable man-to-man situation against probably, arguably, the best wide receiver in the game. And it cost them big time. You know, it pains me, you know, because I'm a defensive guy and I'm sitting here and I'm watching what's transpiring. And I know that there are adjustments that can be made. I know that there are things that you can do to change the outcome of this game. And yet we just continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result and just about every phase of the game. And it's just, you know, it's disheartening to see so many guys lay it on the line to lose the game this way.
Yeah, you could tell how hard it came right through the television, Seth. You could tell how hard this team was playing on both sides of the ball. Didn't always go their way, and ultimately it did not go their way at the end of the game with the score 33-26. But my goodness, Barrett, they just left it out there, and unfortunately, defensively, they're playing with the majority of their cornerback core, their secondary depleted because of injury, and they're still making turnovers, and they're still contesting balls. And again, this offense for Arizona is a strong offense, and when you look at Hopkins at the end of the game, Seth said 11 targets. He had 9 catches for 169 yards.
Yeah, and that's a deficiency that this team really needs to look at as they move forward. You know, you're putting your guy, especially young guy, like it's not our top guy that's out there man-to-man with this guy. It's a guy that, you know, barely got on the field for the entire season. But he still battled. He still fought. He was in position to make a play. He needed help, and we didn't give him the help. So that's where a lot of our deficiencies come from, not being able to make in-game adjustments, just like in the special teams. Come on now. How do we let these things happen to us? First of all, a fumble snap on a PAT. That's a horrible thing to happen. Then to turn around and convert on a 4th down with a pass to the personal protector on a punt play, not forgivable either. And then we go out there and our place kicker is not a punter. Those are things that you have in-game adjustments for that, we couldn't get past. We couldn't coach past them this game. And I think if we'd have had those type of things covered, it would have been a much different game. Yeah. That conversion on the 4th down and the block punt, it's too many things on the special team side of the ball that really killed this team this day.
Yeah, that conversion, the block punt, the muffed extra point, how about that? The fake punt against, which really set them up. That was tough. I want to get back to the quarterback because I know if you watch that game and you're thinking about the struggles that they've had at the position for the majority of the season, and Ray and Barrett and Seth, certainly, Seth, you said 4 games and then make them compete with Carson in the training camp next year. Well, one, what if Carson, and let's be clear about Carson and the reports about Carson saying, he would not want to play here if he was backing up Jalen Hurts. That could have been put out by an agent as well. So that's what agents do. I don't want to completely lambaste Carson Wentz about it. But if Jalen Hurts, Seth, plays this way for 2 more games, and now you've got 4 games worth, and the guy was the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy, really? You're going to make him compete? You're not going to say, he's our guy, he's younger, he's a winner?
No, you can't do that.
Why not?
You just can't do it. I can
tell
you.
Let me say.
What if Carson says, I'm not doing it?
Let me say 2 things here, Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, whatever it is that Jalen Hurts has accomplished before he got to the NFL level is a moot issue right now. Okay. Second of all, I will say this. Okay. My agent always worked for me. So my agent is not out making statements for me without first not having conferred with me about the media spin and the things that he's going to say. Okay. So if it's out there because Carson Wentz's agent put it out there, then Carson Wentz has okayed his agent to put it out there in the public realm. Okay, that's those 2 things first. Second of all, I could give a rat's what about how Carson feels, about how whether Carson wants to be here or not. I am sick and tired of hearing everyone talk about the Eagles failed Carson Wentz. The Eagles betrayed Carson Wentz. Listen, they drafted him with the number 2 draft pick overall. Okay? They made him the starter day 1. They turned around and they re-upped his deal. They gave him extension a year before they even had to. Okay? Every time that he came back from injury, they reinserted him as the starter. Okay? So now, how much more support do you want?
That's
how
my
much
point.
More betrayal
then don't
can
give
you
him any.
Decipher?
That's my point.
Listen, I understand that, but you've got too much invested in him, Michael, not to see if you can't resurrect the Carson Wentz that you thought he could be because you have time. Even if Jalen Hurts continues to play well, and I anticipate that he will, listen, you've got insurance at that position that you haven't had since Nick Foles has walked out the door. Okay, you don't have to be in a hurry because this team has a lot of major issues. Just because you insert Jalen Hurts doesn't mean that you're going to be a playoff team next year. You got to get guys back that are healthy. Okay, you got to continue to build and develop, and you got to go in the draft and in the free agent market, and you got to address your salary cap issues in order for this team to get to where they need to. And when you consider all of those things, Carson Wentz still gives you the long-term benefit of being able to be successful. And if he continues to falter and he doesn't find his way, now you've got an insurance policy in Jalen Hurts because you know what he can bring to the table. Yeah. That's my only point. I'm not saying who should be the starter and who shouldn't be the starter. I'm just of the ilk that, you know what? Competition brings out the best in everybody at every single position, and quarterback is the only position that you don't see competition at, and we have it right here. Let them battle it out. and let the cream rise to the top. And I don't care if Carson Wentz doesn't like being a backup. I don't care what he feels or what he thinks, okay? This organization owes him nothing more than what they already have given him. And now it's time for him to earn it, and he wants to act like a little baby.
Yeah,
so what? We're going to hold your feet to the fire.
And to that point, my friend, and to that point, that's why I would cash in that insurance policy right here, right now. Give a nice little ringy-dingy to Frank Reich or Bill
We just have
Belichick.
differing opinions.
That's just not going to happen. That's just not going to happen.
We just
How
have
are you going
different
to make that
opinions, that's
happen,
all.
Mike?
How are you going to make what happen?
How are you going to trade this guy? How are you going to do the contract thing? Who's going to take that contract?
Someone who Frank Reich might.
He has the money to do it.
Really?
Oh yeah. What if the Eagles can help? They can certainly defray some of the cost of it. I mean, that's certainly a possibility. But all I'm saying is we've seen what we've seen, and we've seen it since what, 16 games in, not 16, 14 games into the 2017 season. We saw what Nick Foles did. We saw the uncomfortability that was created after that. We saw that. Carson Wentz got the job, as Seth said. He got reinserted into the starting lineup, no problem, and he was flat. They came on at the end of each of the last 2 seasons, won their last 4 games. Everybody lauded Doug Peterson for that, the play calling. You got the guys to play around him. That's all well and good. But it's a full 16-game season, and we haven't seen anything from Carson Wentz. I don't know what's going on. No one has brought up the concussion he suffered in the playoff game to Seattle. Maybe that had something to do with it. I am not a doctor, certainly, but he has not played the way he's been able. I just don't know, to Seth's point again, if it's, you got a limited amount of time to make hay with each of these players. The lifespan and career span, as you well know, Seth and Barrett, is very short-lived in the NFL. You've got the benefit of youth on your side with Jalen Hurts. You've got a guy who he might not be NFL tested, although he's getting a baptism by fire these last two-plus games. I mean, it's all right there to see.
Mike, it's 2 games.
Well, that's a good point.
It is
a very good point. I'm going to be in the car.
It is.
I mean, geez, Mike. I mean, I don't.
It is worth the Eagles. Go ahead, Ray.
No, look.
I don't. Straighten me out.
I don't want to be Mr. Wet Blanket here in Jalen Hurts because I am excited about what we've seen of him for 2 games. I mean, he's played better than I thought he was capable of playing, to be honest with you. And you know what? He's probably played better than the coaches thought he was capable of playing, or he would have probably been playing sooner. But I don't think you can make the kind of long-term commitment that you're talking about, the kind of decision that you're talking about, a kind of player movement that you're talking about with a player like Wentz, who's been the cornerstone of what you thought your team was going to be for this number of time on the basis of what you've seen in 2 games. I just think, and I just don't think they're going to do that. I just don't think, and in many years I've been around football, I haven't seen many quarterbacks at his age with the contract that he has get traded. It just doesn't happen.
But why are
Mike.
you seemingly ignoring the 13 games that Carson Wentz played this year, which were dreck, and as Barrett said in the pregame show, it was among the worst he's ever seen in his life.
He was. It's fair to say.
Certainly worth.
He was the worst quarterback in the league for the first part of this year, for sure. But I don't think you can forget the last 2 years when he actually played pretty well. And I think that's one of the things.
All season, Ray. All season.
If you look at his numbers, they aren't bad, Mike. They aren't bad. I mean,
Games 1 through 12.
Yeah, look at them. Look how many games he had a passer rating of over 100. More than you think, Mike. More than you think. And that's one of the narratives here that really bothers me. Because if you hear people on the street now talk about Carson Wentz, they will tell you that he flat out stunk for the last 2 years. And that is not true.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you that this year has been close to abominable. Okay, but in the last 2 years, he played really well. And down the stretch last year, he was the reason you made it to the playoffs. So the idea that he now has to be completely thrown overboard, and you're going to commit to a guy on the basis of 2 games, I'm just saying maybe,
I'll give you that, but
maybe a bit premature.
Okay, how about 4 games? How about 4 games? What about next week he plays against the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas? And the following week, maybe there's a playoff spot still on the line. I know we don't want him to make the playoffs, but you can't tell a team and coaching staff that. And he does the same thing, and they go to the playoffs. And by the way, as Mike Mulhern points out, our esteemed producer, he's a $34 million dead cap hit if they trade him before the new league year. If they keep him, he still counts $34 million
so why not
against the cap.
So why not have him come in and compete? Go out there and go, man against man. Now, if he says, all right, I don't want to come in as a
backup.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you have him compete, like Seth said it all the time, cream rises to the top. At this point, you cannot allow yourself to be just enamored by these last 4 games by Jalen Hurts enough that you can erase 4 years that he's played very, very good football. We're talking about 13 games in which, yes, he's been god awful. But there was a time when we were talking about building a whole franchise around this guy. We can't just alleviate what he's done in the past and put everything and just sweep it under the rug. We have to acknowledge this guy is broke. Everything was broke in this team up until the last 2 games. Everything, defensively, offensively, special team was broke. It wasn't just Carson.
Yeah.
Everything was going wrong.
I got to take a timeout. All I know is I was with you guys in spirit, if not body. We were virtually doing the draft that night in April. Seth, Ray, Barrett.
Yes.
The 53rd overall pick in the draft, Jalen Hurts, University of Oklahoma, and we all had our mouths hanging down to our...
I was dumbfounded also.
Okay.
But what if we'd have got what if we'd have got a contributor
on themselves?
What if we'd have got a contributor? We'd have got a contributor in the second quarter.
Hold that thought. I don't like this Hurts kid, though. I think they should get rid of him.